said only children, like solo children, like one child household, not only children, which is, ooh.
Yeah, because you said
Wow.
coming for only children, and
Oh.
I'm like, okay,
First of all,
something right there.
but honestly, there are advantages to having one child only in a family unit. First of all, they have access to more resources. They have more attention. You know, like they're not fighting for anything. Like if you're in a one-child household and you say, Mom, I want to go to a trip to South Africa, your parents are gonna make it happen. But if you're two children in that house,
Ooh.
and obviously the same class does not go to the same trip.
Yep.
One child is saying, our class trip is in South Africa. The other one is saying, our class trip is in London. Now you have to sit down and decide who is going, or are we going to take this money and all of us will go to Mombasa? As in, there's so many, you know, there's so much strain when there are more children
Yeah,
in a
there's
family
additional
unit,
financial
you
strain,
know.
yeah.
But when it's just one child, they have limitless resources. They have limitless attention. Like life, they're cruising. They want a toy, they get it because who else is going to get it? As in, life is good. But also at the same time, there are limitations. For example, the lack of peer interaction. And by this, I mean, do you remember when you and your sibling were younger and used to gang up? You know, like you are a band of thieves. There was that camaraderie you had. There was just, you grow better. You have more social cues. You're able to, you know, when you're dealing with somebody of your peer, you're able to understand things more. Things that become more obvious in other situations because you've experienced them at home. But now if somebody says something outside of your house, but you've never experienced it at home, it becomes a new experience. You know, like, are they mean? Are they just saying that for the sake of saying that? Because kids can be mean. But if you've already experienced meanness, if your sister has already shouted in your face and slapped you,
And eaten the
you're
last
ready for
slice
it.
of bread.
If your sister has already eaten the snacks you had hid, when it happens outside, you're ready for it. You're prepared. So I think, yeah, that's a disadvantage.
I think another one is like, just like the, you've ever seen situations where parents have just one child? It's like they want this child to be their everything. You know, I
Yup.
want you to be my best friend. I want you to be my, like a parent will want to will dote so much on their kids, which can lead to so much unnecessary pressure on this child, not only to be the best version of themselves, but to also be the best friend to the parent, but also to be the person that accomplishes all the dreams and aspirations the parents have of them. It's a lot of pressure on one person. So that can be very problematic. You've seen parents trying to make their kids get into the careers that they wanted but never made it into.
Living vicariously through your child.
Yes, and it often happens in those single child households, right? It's very tricky, even as a parent, to figure out how to exercise. You know, most times you'll hear parents say, we messed up on the first one. So with the second one, we took up,
what's going
we
on.
worked and made sure we were doing something right. Or we were too strict on the first one. By the second one, we had already done all of the things with the first one. So this one, we gave them a little bit more room. The third one, we even forgot they existed. You know, it's not a thing that is said in jest or in passing. It is the reality of things. You want to do right by the community. You want to do right by your in-laws. You want to do right by your own parents. You want to do right by all the study books it's a lot. A lot of pressure on both the parent and the child.
And also, sometimes when you just have one child, you tend to be very protective because this is all I have. This is my only child. And the more overprotective and more involved you are in your child's life, the more dependent they become on you. And even in situations where, you know, other kids navigate because they've experienced this in their house, like they're able to make decisions quickly. They're able to discern situations quickly. They don't necessarily rely on their parent to say, this is what I want to do. They don't rely on their parents to make a decision because they've had the privilege of doing it amongst their peers. You know, like if we are at home and we had siblings, I'll give an example. Me and my brother would get home from school. We would, you know, remove our clothes, change, shower, do homework. I'd be in charge. Ka darkness akianza kuingia, naanza kuwasha jiko because I know supper time is coming. But all of this is coming because I was put in charge of another human being. You know, my parents were actually hands off because there's a mini parent going on over here. But with an only child, they're used to being catered to. They know at a certain time, like dinner is supposed to be made, but where is it? When they wake up, they expect breakfast because it's supposed to be. You and your brothers, when you would wake up before your parents, what would you do? Unaingia
Neno
jikoni,
unajipanga.
munachemsha chai. You know, you're many. There's that.
Camaraderie. that
Yeah,
comes
when
from it.
when there are many of you, you can do things together. But an only child, he gonna sit there. He gonna wait for the tea to come up to show up. So, you being a bit too over involved in your child's life make them over dependent on your approval and your decisions.
Another issue is actually loneliness, and it's not the kind of loneliness that you would imagine, because oftentimes when, just as Tri has described in her household how things used to work, there is a lot that happens. You know, even now as an adult, when you speak to your brothers, do you not reflect on things? Unakumbuka ile siku kwanza the chicken stories. Unakumbuka venye zile kuku tulikuwa tunafanya XYZ. Unakumbuka venye tulifanya XYZ. Do you remember when mom said XYZ? Like, you have someone to share this information with, right? And that, when you're an only child, it's very difficult for you to really fully explain the dynamics of your household, even to your friends, because they weren't there. They didn't live that experience, right? It's difficult when you're telling it to them, you're telling it to them as a story, as opposed to, we were both there. It's like, I can finish. I'll talk to my brother and I'll tell him something. He's like, unakumbuka ile mawe yenye iko pale. He knows the stone I'm referring to because he's seen the stone. He was there when the stone was, you know, unakumbuka, like, I remember there was a time my mom was trying to drive out of the shamba. She was trying to drive out, right? So instead of stepping on the brake, she hit the gas, and she went pooh, and knocked the whole wall down, right? So my brother is telling me the story. It's like, yo, by there, you need to see this. He's sending me a picture, but I feel like I was right there. However, had I been physically at home, you know, I would have seen it and we're like, hey, unakumbuka venye alikanyaga. Like, you know exactly what I'm telling you. You remember how the car sounded, how the wall sounded, how the earth felt, like how the neighbors came around. As opposed to someone telling you the story of how it happened, you were there, you lived that experience. And it's easier to have a chat with your sibling because of that dynamic. You understand the dynamics of your household intimately. Sometimes you even have different perspectives and you share these stories, right? So when you're a lone kid, who are you going to tell? Your mama? Your daddy? It's not the same. It's a different kind of loneliness. It's like a very, you feel alone, but not necessarily alone in the way that people would assume.
And also in adulthood, you kind of bear the sole responsibility of everything because you're the only child. And as you grow older, unfortunately, you end up taking care of your parents. Like in reverse, now you're responsible for a lot more things. Even if it's not financially, you're there physically. They need your time. They need help with certain things. The emotionally, the emotional burden that parents carry for their children. So if it's just one child, they get to carry this all on their own. Either it's financial, emotional, physical, they're the go-to for the parents. But if there are many siblings around, this burden is spread out. Like, if I need somebody to come and fix the cabinets, I call one sibling. If I need somebody with the money, I call the one that has corporate job. I'm like, hey, my daughter, I need some cash. If I need, emotional stuff, I need to talk to somebody. Who do I bad talk? My husband. Bad mouth. My husband too. You call your favorite, child, huyu baba yako, hata sijui.
Your favorite gossip girl.
So yeah, it's a bit difficult for one child to be all of that for their parent. So yeah, ongezeni watoto.
Are you telling that to them as you're telling it to yourself? The pressure is getting worse.
Can I tell you to start? Can I tell you to start so we can have them in one house? Like they can be siblings at this point.
Why are you shouting? I feel like she's shouting.
Yes.
And it's time for us to go home.
Get another child.
Because
who can be a sibling to my child. Please.
The pressure is worse. Anyway, that's been our show. I feel like manage yourself as well. There are people who decide to have children back to back. There are people who decide to space their children out. I think at the end of the day, it's really a matter of what do you feel for yourself makes sense. But these are some of the disadvantages of just having the one child.
True.
There are many advantages. To
Too
just
many
mention many.
advantages.
The sufficiency of resources, you know. All of these are also advantages. The heartache and the pain, huh? Also, you assume that all your children will be born the same way. No, children are born so differently. You had one perfect child, you decided to add another one. This one comes with diseases and other issues. Like, what do you do now? So you have to take care of the child because it is your child. So all of these things are things to consider as well. So be mindful of what you want. Let it be your decision, right? I think that's been our show. My name is always Kathomi Kathomi.
My name is Turife. I'll see you tomorrow.